public sphere, sometimes discourse is instrumentalized for political purposes. Hostile rhetoric is directed against minorities, migrants, refugees, women, or the so-called other group. Hate speech weakens and destroys communities. It sows fear, hatred, and mistrust. Left unchecked, hate speech can lead to violence and even pave the way for later genocide. Hassrede nimmt überall auf der Welt zu. Die Sprache der Ausgrenzung und Marginalisierung hat sich in der Medienberichterstattung, Online-Plattformen und nationale Politikerinnen eingeschlichen. Migrantinnen und Geflüchteten sind manchmal mit einem problematischen Ausmaß an Intoleranz konfrontiert, manchmal von Behörden. Welche Rolle spielen Behörden? Was machen die migrantische Community selbst dagegen? Mehr dazu erfahren hier auf Nyimas Bantaba. My name is Nyima Jadama. You're watching Nyimas Bantaba. My name is Nyima Jadama. Together with me, we'll be talking about hate speech against the migrant communities, or the minorities, call it if you like, with a special focus on the role of authorities. My guests are from different European countries that are coming from different perspectives, fighting for the rights of migrants, refugees, LGBTQ, and so on. You're watching Nyimas Bantaba. Bantaba is a traditional meeting point where people sit down, discuss, and talk on issues. First, the talk show would actually be in German and English, as we are looking at different countries from Germany, Finland, Spain, and of course, Hungary. With me, I have Monzer. Monzer is a board member at the Flüchtlingsrat, that is the Refugee Council Baden-Württemberg. I have Ufoka Eugene. He's in Finland. He's the founder of EU Avopal Weltweit. He will help me mention that right. And I also have Reginald, who is a board member of the European Commission for Migrants and Refugees, a human and LGBT right activist. And finally, I have Marcell Lőrincz. Marcell, it's a podcaster for Get the Trolls Out, an EU project, and as well a member of the European Network Against Racism. First, I would start with Monzer, sorry. Monzer from the Refugee Council Baden-Württemberg. Hi Marcell, wie geht's Ihnen?
Dankeschön, vielen Dank, mir geht's gut. Ich hoffe, dass es Ihnen auch gut geht und ich freue mich sehr. Vielen Dank für die Einladung.
Sehr gerne, viele liebe Grüße nach Baden-Württemberg. Also, erstmal, die Flüchtlingsrat Baden-Württemberg engagiert für die Rechte von Geflüchteten, menschliche Flüchtlingspolitik und eine Welt ohne Diskriminierung. Können Sie uns kurz schreiben, warum dieses Engagement und was sind eigentlich eure Objektive?
Ja. Also dieses Engagement ist deswegen, weil wir nicht nur einfach das Gefühl haben, dass unsere Welt ungerecht ist, sondern weil wir auch sehen, dass wir in Strukturen sind, die ungerecht sind. Und deswegen brauchen wir organisiertes Engagementarbeit, die sich dafür einsetzt, ungerechte Erfahrungen von geflüchteten Menschen sichtbar zu machen, auf verschiedenen Ebenen, also auf individuelle, strukturelle, auch institutionelle Ebene. Und deswegen habe ich mich einfach für diese Stelle, gerade jetzt beim Flüchtlingsrat, ehrenamtlich dafür entschieden, da mich zu engagieren, weil ich auch selber da eine Fluchtgeschichte habe und auch da die Stimme vieler geflüchteter Menschen sichtbar machen möchte.
Thank you very much. Monzer was saying, I asked of the objective of his organization, that is the Refugee Council Baden-Württemberg. And actually, to sum it up, the idea is to make sure that the rights of refugees are put forward, are seen, their voices are heard, and so on. He himself was a refugee from Syria. From this experience, he decided to take up the challenge or the work to voluntarily serve the Refugee Council in South Germany for the rights and amplifying voices of refugees. Thank you very much, Monzer. Now, we're going to Finland, und zwar to Ufoka. So recently we've seen, like, in Finland and in Germany, this are just like a few weeks ago, that authorities, a minister and a mayor, altering hate speech against migrants and refugees because of whatever statements or issues that unfold. But before going there, Okofa, I would like to ask you, your biggest strength as a social service provider is the ability to connect and understand the clients in a human way. You are a professional social worker, your organization, this is what you studied, and you're working as a professional social worker. So I was wondering, what type of human way are we looking at here? Is there something missing?
Well, thank you very much for having me here today, and I also want to say welcome to everyone who is here today. I think that for me, one of the things that I think that link us all on this planet is our humanity. And it's the most important thing that we all have, that we share, no matter your skin color, where you come from. That humanity, that fundamental instinct that every human being have, that we love, we care for one another, we want to be loved, and we want to be seen and heard. So for me, that is like the focus of my business, that I have to approach my client from this humane perspective, that everyone I am dealing with, they are human beings that deserve every right that every other human being deserves to have, and no matter the situation, because sometimes also society treats people based on their social status. So those who are deprived, disenfranchised communities in societies, they tend to be looked down upon, even by those who are supposed to provide them services that is meant for everyone. So I decided to coin my business in this approach, that I am going to give people service in a very humane way, that I meet them in this one common thing we all share as human beings, like our value in life that should be respected and cherished by everyone else.
This is amazing. Representing the 1% is really amazing. I mean, as refugees, we're mostly termed as the 1%. And like to just quote you, you know, sometimes refugees or people are treated based on their human status. And I think coming up with such an idea is super a good initiative. And now, going to, like they would call it, the other, the so-called other groups. George Reginald is an instrumental name when it comes to human rights, LGBTQ community, currently based in Spain. And George, you are a dedicated human rights defender for people discriminated against because of their sexual orientation, gender identity, and expression. What is the objective behind you dedicating your time for such community? I mean, it's obviously, we say we fight for migrants and refugee rights, but then it's another thing to fight for the right of LGBTQ community. What's your objective?
Oh, sorry, I'm muted, sorry.
Super.
Can you hear me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so first of all, I want to say thanks to everyone for being here, and Nyima, thanks for giving me this opportunity. So I would say, growing up as a child, I grew up in an African household.
Yeah.
And, you know, and most of the time I was being ostracized, being discriminated against in the community and things like that. So I felt that, you know, I needed to speak up. And coming from Sierra Leone, there were no organization that existed. So I decided, and I felt that, you know, it's not only to be, you know, for us to be in the closet, but also creating an opportunity for our voices to be seen, heard, and also not seen and heard as well, because seen and heard is just half part of the pie, but actually taking action and actually documenting and actually, you know, raising awareness and educating people in communities. So that's where my journey actually started. So I've seen a lot of discrimination. I was excommunicated from the church. Even my family kicked me out, you know, all of those things. So those were the reasons why. And plus my friend died of HIV, and, you know, and because it couldn't have access to actually healthcare facilities in Sierra Leone. So I was angry. And the reason why I decided to turn my anger into making it as a positive change. So through this, I was actually being able to actually be an authentic voice. And, you know, and one day I landed myself in a little bit of trouble. A newspaper published me in 2013. And, you know, I was imprisoned, and it was the Spanish government that rescued me. And actually, so I would say this is a passion that was, you know, growing up, I was born to an American mom, and she always taught me the values of being honest, of treat people with kindness, compassion, and humanity. You know, and I think that's that's just me, and it's something that I was actually born and grown up with, and so I decided to start Pride Equality International, which is an organization that actually advocates for LGBTI people, not only in Sierra Leone, but also we have a project here in Spain. So to me, I think this was something that is innate, and and also it's because of due to the discrimination and hate crimes and being in jail like several times, just for speaking out and defending people. And just to add to that, I also lost my legal license in Sierra Leone for just defending the rights of LGBTI people in the court.
Yeah, that's actually Africa for the LGBT community. I'm from West Africa, so I know how it is. We will actually look at such a situation like being an advocate, a very instrumental voice for the rights of the LGBTQ in Africa. Thank you very much for that. That was a bit touching. It's so really heartbreaking to be imprisoned or to be castigated just for fighting for your right. I see no reason why that should be. To Budapest, Marcell, so Get the Trolls Out. The project has now ended. Actually, the project was actually tackling against racism, hate speech, xenophobia, religious beliefs, and so on. But Marcell will tell us more about the objective of Get the Trolls Out. But first, I want to know what are some of the impact that the objective of the Get the Trolls Out brought to the migrants and refugee communities since its inception. Like I said, one of its aim is to combat hate speech against the minority groups.
Guten Tag and hallo. Danke für die Gelegenheit und willkommen im Publikum. That's all my German for now.
Thank you. It's so nice. This is cool.
No, it's German language has an old history in Hungary, and yeah, it's all of us are speaking a little bit, a tiny bit, and really, I'm grateful to be here and to represent the Get the Trolls Out project, which is an international activity in 6 or 7 countries, depends on the year, and it's led by a UK-based organization, Media Diversity Institute. I'm working from Budapest for the Center for Independent Journalism, and our objective is to react on hate speech in journalism. So what we do mainly that we monitor media content, the mass media mainly, and looking for content where communities with a religious background, let's name them Muslims, Jews, Christians, or other religious minorities, are discriminated or attacked by hate speech in the media. And what we do that we react on that. We give a feedback to the journalists, to the editors themselves, to the media channel that, hey, we found something on your channel, on your page. We believe it's wrong. Please correct it, remove it. And it has an effect. It has an impact on this. And we believe that even we are a so-called drop in the ocean. So unfortunately, hate is really big nowadays, and maybe the people didn't change too much, but as the technical opportunities are different, one hate content can reach much more people than before. There is maybe we believe that there is an impact also on that what we prevent to happen. So what is not happening because of us. We hope that the communities also feel that there are more forces on their side. They are not alone in this struggle, that such organizations which are working as an expert on journalism, we also have our role to correct this and to tackle this.
Thank you very much. Hungary is one of the countries that are really known for hate speech against the migrant communities, especially the 2015 migration crisis. We would actually come to that to see what your organization, what role your organization has played in combating or at least making the situation a bit better. To Monzer, again in Flüchtlingsrat. Monzer, Sie haben gesagt, oder Sie sind ehrenamtlich Vorstand bei Flüchtlingsrat und Sie setzen sich für eine offene, tolerante und vielfältige Gesellschaft ein, in der jedes Individuum sich wohlfühlt und vertreten wird. Was sind Ihre Engagements beziehungsweise bei Flüchtlingsrat Baden-Württemberg als Vorstandsmitglied?
Also als ich nach Deutschland geflüchtet bin, ich habe mich mit der Thematik der Integration sehr arg beschäftigt. Also viele haben über Integration geredet. Ja. Ich muss ehrlich sagen, ich verstehe immer noch nicht, was die Bedeutung von Integration, obwohl alle, aber eins wusste ich, dass ich der Gegenstand dieser Debatte bin. Also es geht um wie. Ich muss irgendwie bestimmte Sachen machen. Das wusste ich irgendwie. Also das wusste ich, okay, es geht um Integration. Wenn ich das Wort Integration sage, dann sind immer Menschen mit Migrationsgeschichte davon betroffen oder fühlen sich davon angesprochen. Was jetzt mein Thema betrifft, ist, wenn wir über Integration reden, dann brauchen wir Integration für alle. Weil diese Begriff ist für mich so eine politische Kampfbegriff geworden, mit dem man einfach viel Politik macht. Ja. Parteien, die in der AfD zum Beispiel sitzt jetzt im Parlament, wird von Steuergeldern gezahlt, nur weil sie dieses Thema genommen hat und einfach, und das ist für mich, Integrationsdebatte ist Machtstrukturen. Also wer redet über Integration, ja. Wer hat das Recht, Integration zu definieren? Und deswegen sage ich als geflüchteter Mensch, jetzt will ich mitreden, ich will mitgestalten, ja. Und ich will einfach auch mein Verständnis von Definition mit reinbringen. Das heißt nicht, dass ich jetzt Deutschland damit kaputt machen möchte oder die deutsche Gesellschaft zerstören möchte. Das ist genau das Gegenteil. Ja. Unsere Gesellschaft kann nur dann leben, unsere Demokratie kann nur dann leben, wenn wir vielfältige Gesellschaft haben, die in der Lage ist, Menschen als Individuum wahrzunehmen. Das Problem der Menschen haben jetzt damit zu kämpfen, sie immer in Gruppen verstanden werden. Also wenn irgendein geflüchteter Mensch irgendwas tut, dann denken alle Menschen so, oh, was machen wir jetzt? Es gibt ein Problem. Alle Menschen, wir geflüchtete Menschen werden jetzt als eine Gruppe wahrgenommen, eine einheitliche, klar definierte, und dadurch geht viel Potenzial an Vielfalt verloren. Ja. Also deswegen sage ich bin ein geflüchteter Mensch, weil ich da aufgrund meiner diesen Status erlebe, das ist sehr wichtig, das zu erwähnen, aber auch dann gleichzeitig, ich bin ein Mensch mit individuelle
ich mach weiter.
Individuelle Geschichte. Und deswegen sage ich, es ist sehr wichtig für geflüchtete Menschen in allen Bereichen, Lebensbereichen sichtbar zu werden. Nicht nur, wenn es darum geht, über Migration zu reden, dann Menschen mit Migrationsgeschichte oder Menschen mit Fluchtgeschichte dann sind relevant. Nee, in allen Lebensbereichen, gerade auch in der Politik. Deswegen sage ich, es ist sehr wichtig und auch sehr relevant, über politische Integration zu reden. Menschen mit Fluchterfahrungen auch müssen auf politischer Ebene sichtbar werden. Es darf nicht mehr sein, dass über geflüchtete Menschen geredet wird, sondern geflüchtete Menschen müssen auch oder wollen ihre Ansichten da in die Politik reinbringen und auch ihre Interesse thematisieren. Und deswegen engagiere ich mich sehr stark für diesen Begriff politische Integration, weil nur dann können wir unsere Demokratie schützen und auch die Vielfalt unserer Gesellschaft sichtbar machen.
Geil, super. Ich hoffe, dass wir irgendwann das hinkriegen, dass wir unsere Gesellschaft wirklich Vielfalt und Stärke für die marginalisierte Gruppe auch schaffen können. So I've asked Monzer about his specific role at the Refugee Council Baden-Württemberg, what he does there. So his topic is integration, and he asks himself really, what is integration? This is a question I think every refugee or every migrant would ask him or herself, what really integration means. And then, you know, he hoped for, or as a topic, like integration is mostly been talked about, for example, the AfD, that is the right-wing party that sits in the parliament and get money from taxpayers' money and talk about, for example, integration. And the question is, who is talking about integration? What is really integration about? And he is fighting towards to make sure that integration or refugees are known and seen in the society in a very positive way, and that not just as anyhow he talked about more, but just to sum it up, I think for you guys to understand. So we're talking about hate speech, and in Finland, Ukofa, we've seen a few weeks ago, the Minister of Education in Helsinki, in a video circulating, says she will not get her kids in the same school as where migrant kids are due to, for example, peer influence. She further lamented of the low IQs of these groups. And then the other lady sitting next to her in the video was like, it's normal to do that, but for her, it's not okay. So I wanted to, what's your reaction as a social worker, someone who is well connected to this group, and as well, what is the reaction of the migrant community in Finland since this happened?
Well, again, I think that this is an issue about, again, humanity of human beings, that some people have been stratified to have less of humanity in them, and that empowers certain people to make such kind of statements. And just a point of correction there, I think that the Minister of Education was in the debate, and she was the one who was sitting there next. The person who was making that statement is the chairperson of the far-right party in Finland. They call it the Finn Party. And actually, we just had a parliamentary election maybe last month, and she have the highest vote ever recorded, like the 10th highest in the record of Finland. So the far-right party won hugely. I think there are many factors to that. But I think hate speech in Finland is not a new thing. I think that many people in European Union think that Finland is a paradise. It's a place that, you know, because it's the image that the Finnish government is selling of Finland outside of Finland. But if we look back in 2019, the Being Black in EU report that was made by the European Fundamental Rights Group, that is the European Union itself, trying to look at hate speech and racism in Europe, Finland was the most racist country from that report. And among that, there was like other 24 EU countries that were like, people were questioned about it. So Finland was the most racist in that. And everything in that report was true according to the experiences of people who are migrant and refugees in Finland who were like interviewed in that survey. So this is not anything new. And when we came here, Finland doesn't really have any law about hate speech and what is hate speech. It is a very common thing that Finnish parliamentarians in the parliament session are making comments about Syrians or Iraqi people or African people or, you know, any other kind of minority groups, anyhow they like. And it goes clearly without anybody questioning that, because there is actually no really defined law about what is hate speech and what is classified as hate speech in Finland. So then anybody can say what they like. Mm-hmm. And this is not anything new, but this is particularly very interesting because when you talk about education, when someone is sitting on the national television of a country and is saying something that is shocking, that you'll be thinking that somebody is more intelligent than another person because of where they come from or because of their skin color or race, is really below the belt, to say the least. But again, the media who gave the platform for such a person to be making such a statement without any intervention from the journalists and from anyone else there, it is actually something that we are still like struggling to see. And like I reached out to you that we need to have like a media platform in Finland where, like what Marcell is saying, what they are doing, I think that we should try to have something like that, because we need to actually have a way that we can actually confront this kind of statements, publications, writing, or whatever, on the media with like just what Marcell, what they are doing in Hungary. Like we need to have that because this is everyday business in Finland. It's not new.
I think the Independent Journalism Center, it's Europe-wide, so you guys are connected. I'm sure you can take contact on that. I think they are sitting there for Europe-wide. It's the center in Hungary. But then you made something very, very interesting in your speech, like there are no laws, rules and regulations on hate speech in Finland, and what is really even hate speech. And that brought me to the question to George, someone who has lived and perhaps still experience hate speech. not just from authorities, but in general. But now we're looking at from the authorities. George, if you are to define hate speech, what is hate speech? What are we looking at?
Sorry. Well, I will say, from my own point of view, this hate speech, these are speech that negatively impact, people. Doesn't matter what your age, your sex, your gender, your sexual orientation, your immigration status, and things like that. So when I look at the examples in Barcelona and also in Spain, we have progressive laws. There are so many laws against their human rights laws and so many things. But when it comes to the reality, it's a different ballgame. Mm-hmm. So I will describe hate crime. So for example, I remembered when we were doing a campaign, the We Listen to Refugee campaign. So we have a party called Box. So this project was a project that was run by UNHCR. We partnered, Pride Equality, my organization, partnered with UNHCR so we can raise awareness. And, we had like racist laws, like go back to your country, you're baboon and, things like that. And so all of these things go, undocumented. And there's a commission here where you can report it. And when you report it to the commission and there's nothing being done, but the laws are there. And so people see Spain as, oh, this progressive nation and things like that. But in reality, it is not, because we still have crack holes and bottlenecks, and and it's so difficult because when you go to the police, they'll say, okay, that's just a statement, but you are not arrested, nobody attacked you, nobody did anything to you, you know what I mean? So it's like a flip side.
Yeah.
To say, so to me, I think hate speech is deeply rooted in the Spanish community, and and they don't care doing anything about it. Mm-hmm. And they pretend to. There was also a case of a lady who was gang raped in Pamplona, and then one of the judge in the court in Spain said, oh, she deserved it because she was dressed in a way, to seduce men and things like that. And it makes you wonder to see, it makes you wonder to see that if are you living in a country where human rights are not being respected and upheld? So to me, I think much needs to be done. Mm-hmm. It's not only about talking about hate speech, but we need to bring to book those who bear the greatest responsibility, especially people from political parties like Vox, which is one of the anti-women, anti-discriminatory. They have all the vices when it comes to being human and protecting the rights of every human being. Doesn't matter. They are against so many things, and I think these are campaigns and people we need to stand up against, and and to say that they don't belong here, and we need to wipe them out of don't give them the space to actually make these hate speeches.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So I have so many questions to discuss, and the topic is super interesting. So I will urge that we summarize a bit in our answers, so that I will ask every question I have, or you guys can just jump and make the discussion more lively. That's an amazing description on hate speech, and of course, bringing in some examples from you, George. Like I said, we've seen hate speech uttered from authorities against migrants in almost all the countries that we are looking at. George has just mentioned one. We've looked at the situation in Finland. In Germany, it happens. And now we want to shift our attention in UK. I haven't mentioned this, but in UK, it also happens there, and it's currently going on. I mean, in UK, where, like Marcell said, Get the Trolls Out, it's a project implemented by the Media Diversity Institute that is actually based in London. The minister also, I would describe him as someone who shows a zero tolerance toward asylum seekers in a statement, and I quote, who himself has a migration background. It's actually quite interesting sometimes, when you thought this person could support me, but in reality, the person is against you. And I quote, he says, make no mistake, if you come here illegally, you will not be able to stay. The Prime Minister was deploying some tough talk ahead of a new legislation which has now been enacted, intended to deport anyone arriving on a small boat to Rwanda or elsewhere, and to ban them permanently from entering to the UK. I want to know the stand of Get the Trolls Out, Marcell. We've seen this recent influx of refugees coming to UK and then UK transporting them back to Rwanda, the paradise, the capital of Africa, I would say. Tell us the stand of this. Why Rwanda? Why this approach?
Yes, and just to react on that, how to say, thought that the Prime Minister Sunak has a migrant background, and still we can see that the policies what he's representing or supporting are, let's say, anti-migrant. But yeah, it's good to work against the stereotypes. So many people who are not having migrant background are having an open mind and supporting human rights, fortunately. So we can balance these things. So the Get the Trans Out project, yes, indeed, we are centered in the UK, so it's extra important what's happening there and to react on that. And we stand against the proposed refugee ban bill. We made a statement, and also the Get the Trolls Out project is inviting experts and community members and making interview series to show the reality of migration. So what we say that we believe the way some media are covering the UK government's proposed migration bill, and the language being used by some politicians is linked to the way migrants are treated when they come to the UK and other European countries. We are against the proposed bill as it limits access to protection for those in need and breaches the UK obligations under the Refugee Convention. Further, we are witnessing how discriminatory narratives by politicians are reproduced and spread by unprofessional media reporting, impacting how we all think about migrants and policies on which politicians decide. So we think that we have to react on this.
Thank you very much. Hopefully they react, and I hope that a solution will be made. Also in Germany, we had a situation. I think this was last month. It's also a hate speech uttered by an authority. Mossad will be able to shed light on this, but this is also a refugee that died, that was stamped to death, and the mayor of the city actually, Mossad, correct me if I'm wrong, visited the area, and instead of showing sympathy, he's like, yeah, it's long overdue, because these are the community that the police has been targeting because they've been dealing in drugs, illicit acts, or whatever. So, you know, it actually prompts a lot of demonstrations, statements countering or against his statements were made by migrant supporters and refugee rights activists and so on. So this is what I'm going to ask Mossad. Mossad, letzter Monat ist ein Asylsuchender umgebracht. Dieser folgt ein Hassrede von der Bürgermeister in Landkreis Tübingen gegen eine geflüchtete Communität, beziehungsweise aus Gambia. Welche Rolle hat die Flüchtlinge aus Baden-Württemberg an dieses Stand genommen?
Ja, also ich komme selber auch aus Tübingen. Ich habe dort auch studiert. Ich finde es sehr schade, dass man einfach viel über Tübingen, also man weiß sozusagen, wenn ich sage, ich komme aus Tübingen, dann weiß man schnell, das Erste, was ich immer so gehört bekomme, Boris Palmer, der Oberbürgermeister, kommt aus Tübingen. Ich muss ehrlich sagen, gestern war einer der besten Tage, die ich überhaupt in Deutschland erlebt habe, und das war, weil der Boris Palmer eine Auszeit in der Politik bekannt gemacht hat. Er ist eine sehr problematische Figur in der Politik. Es gab, wie du erwähnt hast, es gab einen traurigen Tod von einem geflüchteten Menschen aus Gambia, der Yalo. Und der Boris Palmer hat schnell, wie ihr das immer macht, das ist nicht das erste Mal, was er macht, ja. Und übrigens, neulich wurde er auch mit einer Mehrheit in Tübingen gewählt. Und das ist genau ein Problem. Er macht immer wieder rassistische Aussagen, trotzdem wird er gewählt. Das heißt, mit anderen Worten, für viele Menschen in Tübingen ist Boris Palmer eine wichtige Person, weil er gute Politik macht. Allerdings, dass er Menschenwürde verletzt, ist für sie kein Problem. Hauptsache macht er Radwege für Tübingen. Und das finde ich sehr problematisches Ding. Also das ist genau, wenn ich jetzt über Hassreden spreche, die Frage ist, wo ist die Mehrheit, die still ist? Und das brauchen wir, diese Mehrheit. Also ich habe immer wieder auch diese rassistische Erlebnisse erlebt. Und da habe ich mir dabei, also gerade wo ich dieses Hass erlebe, ich denke immer, also im Zug zum Beispiel, ich denke, gerade ich will nicht mit dieser Person diskutieren, sondern ich will die Mehrheit, die jetzt um diese Person sitzt, die jetzt im Zug ist. Und leider ist in vielen Fällen herrscht da eine Stille. Und das ist ein großes Problem. Also das Gute ist zum Beispiel in Tübingen, da sind viele Menschen auf die Straße gegangen. Also hat auch Flüchtlingsrat mitbewirkt, dass viele Menschen zu mobilisieren, auf die Straße zu gehen und zu sagen, nee, Palma, so weit ist es nicht okay, was du jetzt sagst. Jetzt müssen wir ein Zeichen setzen und sagen, wir brauchen Solidarität, Solidarität von allen Teilen der Gesellschaft. Und zu sagen, jetzt geht es nicht weiter. Vor 2 Tagen hat er wieder auch einen rassistischen Ding gemacht. Das war in Frankfurt. Er hat immer mehrmals das N-Wort benutzt und immer sich selbst das Recht gegeben haben, ich darf das benutzen. Und das ist genau die Frage hier. Wann mache ich Hassreden? Das Problem ist, dass diese Menschen, die das tun, haben die Überlegung, das ist mein Recht. Und man kritisiert das, wenn ich das nicht sage, die Meinungsfreiheit ist jetzt in Gefahr. Und das ist ein großes Problem. Es geht nicht darum, dass wir die Meinungsfreiheit in Gefahr bringen, sondern es geht darum, dass wir Rassismus und Hassreden so benennen, wie er ist und wie. Und genau, und das Gute ist, dass wir haben mitorganisiert, Grundgebungen, genau, und Alma hat jetzt Konsequenzen und das ist sehr gut.
Palma have consequences after all this that happened. I mean, he was saying, like, because Palma, that is the mayor of the city in Tübingen, and it's unfortunate he's also from this city, and it's unfortunate all the time whenever he said he's from Tübingen, they say, that's Palma, it's where he is from. That's not a good Zeichnung oder Ausstrahlung. I don't know how to say that. But then he made mention of very important points here, like who is talking about hate speech? Where is it coming from? When is hate speech being uttered? What is the role of authorities? And what is hate speech all about? You know, why are we doing this to certain minority groups? He talked about like the stand that his organization, Refugee Council, took when this hate speech was uttered by the mayor himself, who should actually lead, be an example to the community, but instead is doing the other way around. Like they help in support of organizing demonstrations, circulate statements, and so on. So for him and his organization, I think the authorities, especially the mayor, should be instead in solidarity with this minority group instead of saying, okay, they are the problem, or they could have did this way or the way around. So to sum it up, this is what Monzer was talking about. To Ufoka, you describe yourself as an agent of change, community organizer, and influencer. What change or impact are you influencing to the migrant community?
Well, I think there's an African proverb that says that if you think that you are too small, try to spend a night with a mosquito in a tent. And this means that no matter how small of whatever you're doing, you don't need to be doing big things. The small things goes a long way also to make an impact in people's life and society. And that is the principle and the context that I come from. I'm not like that I'm going to change the world. No, I try to make an encounter and impact to every one person I meet, one person at a time. And those things are the way that I reach out to people, and I try to provide them solutions to the challenges that they're facing. And it has been very, very effective in that way, because when we think about it, the community is the people who are living in the community. And sometimes to have the grassroots approach is the best way than to start from bottom top. You start from top to bottom. You start from the bottom and going up. So, and that is like what I do. And like I said again, for me, it's about meeting people at a level that no one else meets them there, meeting people that no one else wants to meet these people, and going to the darkest, and the weakest part of our society, of our communities, and trying to also shine your light. Nelson Mandela said that as we liberate ourselves from the struggles that we have, just by that act, we also inspired others to free themselves as well. So sometimes also it's just how you live your life as a citizen of a society, as a member of a community, that your own life is actually an inspiration for others to follow as well. If there are, for example, there are many young Black people in Finland who thinks that, oh, I can never work in such a place. But then we are trying to say, hey, there are Black people who are doctors, who are lawyers, who are social workers. You can be anything you want. So just by that, just being here, seeing George, seeing Marcell, and seeing Monzer, it's an inspiration also for other human beings to see that, hey, I can do this thing as well. So when I said I'm an agent of change, I'm not saying that I am, that's like I'm saying that it's the little things we do in societies that pick up the energy and people get going by those stuff.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Now I would shift my attention to George. George, we've talked a bit about hate speech in the African context or in the African continent. Of course, you're from West Africa and we know how it is. You are a very instrumental voice for the rights of the LGBTQI community in your home country before traveling to, or before being rescued by the Spanish government. Being the first person to successfully advocate for LGBTQI rights to the Human Rights Commission of Sierra Leone, you must have encountered real hate towards you during this time. Of course, being led to an imprisonment. What was your experience? How was the situation there?
Yeah, well, the situation was a bit challenging because, accessing the Human Rights Commission, they were actually turned us down and they started told us, oh, read the Bible, read the Quran and things like that. So they started flipping the conversation. And what was really wrong with that was that it was a pastor that was leading, a Pentecostal pastor that was leading the Human Rights Commission. So we had the meeting with the Human Rights Commission. Several times we've been bashed and said, oh, we couldn't talk to the Human Rights Commission. And the Human Rights Commission placed a statement that that's not a human right. So we went through the Office for United Nations Office for Human Rights, Commission for Human Rights in Sierra Leone. And so they actually gave us the leverage to have a meeting with the Human Rights Commission. So since that day we had, so we were able to make some strides. And also we used the support of UNAIDS to actually see that LGBTI people would be able to access only healthcare services. But the healthcare services, it's with conditionality. Mm-hmm. And this only has to come, specifically for, there were only 2 doctors in the whole country that said they could treat LGBTI people. They were acceptable, but the whole rest of the medical doctors couldn't. And so it was the first time that we actually developed the National Strategic Plan, and LGBTI people were actually inclusive in that, even though the majority were kicking against it. But we actually had that. So I would say it was a challenging journey. My office was raided, and most people were being arrested. People were being suspected for being, gay. Even heterosexual people suffered from it. Just because if you're a man and you're a little bit effeminate, or you're a woman, you're a little bit masculine, they'll call the police. Because we have a law that once you have, like, for example, like any sexual infection, you should bring or your partner so that they can actually treat that person. But that law is really discriminatory, and it's actually creating more boundaries and barrier for people not to actually, declare. So I would say it was challenging. Yep. It was a bit of, a bitter moment for us. But however, we were able to make a stride. Just like Ufoka said, mm-hmm. It's one step at a time. We cannot change everything. Yep. We're taking baby steps, and and change is something that comes little by little, and we hope that we're going to, and we're still continuing working. Yeah,
hopefully change would come. To Marcell. Marcell, you're based in Hungary, one of the countries that are most intolerant in EU, that has at least some bad laws and uttered several hate statements against the migrant community, especially to refugees coming in the 2015 refugee influx. Tell us about the situation in Hungary. Is it still hostile as it used to be?
Yeah, thank you for the question. And Yes, it's very interesting if we compare countries or societies. In one way, I would say, unfortunately, Hungarian society is having a very negative attitude towards migration and otherness in general. So there were research and even imaginary migrant groups got negative points on in that research from the society. That was kind of awkward. So even non-existing people are considered bad or lazy or non-wanted. On the other hand, what is fortunate that Hungary has a very low number of real incidents. So I would say that the people are here kind of peaceful. If you are migrant, if you belong to any group which are facing with prejudices, you don't really have to fear because of your physical risk is kind of low. But the government is playing a very nasty game. So this whole xenophobia and racism, which is describing kind of what is happening in the media, in the pro-governmental media in Hungary, is just part of a power game. So to gain the power, to keep the power, that's what we realize. It's we describe it as the rising of moral panic. There is always an attack on Hungary. There is always an attack on Hungarian people. And the government is there to protect Hungary and the Hungarian nation against the European Union, against the United States, against the migrants, against the LGBTQ plus communities, everything. But on the other hand, if you are asking about the regulation or legislation, the asylum procedure got very difficult, really hard to ask for asylum on a legal way in Hungary if you are not coming from Ukraine now, because that's a very special case. But before this war, the other asylum seekers or refugees, the non-Ukrainians, let's say, were facing a very difficult situation. It was easier for them to try to sneak, to use irregular ways, which were of course pretty much controlled. But on the other hand, what we see, and we try to raise the awareness about that the number of the so-called third country nationals, so non-European citizens in Hungary, is rising. So it turned out that the government is having a good migrant and bad migrant game. And if you are Christian, white, then you are welcome. If you are black or non-Christian, it's creating questions. If you, I would say, if you are poor and non-educated, or let's say non-useful for the economy, then you are belonging to the bad migrant group. And that's very racist and against all of the values that we would like to raise.
Amazing. Now we have 10 minutes to go, and like I said, I have more questions to ask, so please summarize your responses to a minute or 1 minute, 20 seconds. Marcell, that was very amazing. Like, also, it connotes a bit to Monzer's response to hate speech situations in Germany. It's a question of power. Hate speech is a question of who holds it, who says it, and so. And if you look at it, really, it comes from people with power. Like, just an ordinary citizens would say it, and that's it. But it's really a question of power. Monzer, and I want to ask Monzer's experiences, because he came here as a refugee and, of course, must have encountered racial attacks or hate statements. Monzer, Sie sind selbst vor 8 Jahren aus Syrien nach Deutschland geflüchtet. Was sind Ihre Erfahrungen im Rahmen Hassrede gegen die geflüchtete Community? Haben Sie selbst was erfahren oder generell?
Also ich würde gerne das jetzt nicht auf gesellschaftliche Ebene, weil ich glaube, wenn ich jetzt viel über die in der Gesellschaft gemachte Erfahrungen, dann werde ich zu viel reden. Aber ich glaube, mir wichtig zum Beispiel jetzt, das in institutionellen Rahmen, das zu thematisieren. Also zum Beispiel Ausländerbehörde. Das ist so ein Ort, wo man richtig super Angst davor hat, ja. Also richtig als jemand mit Fluchterfahrung dorthin zu gehen oder Migrationsgeschichte dorthin zu gehen, das ist sehr das ist sehr hart, gerade weil man auch vor Ort bei den Behörden auch Hassreden erlebt. Also ich habe das auch selber erfahren. Ich habe Menschen dorthin begleitet, für sie übersetzt. Also das super Phänomen ist laut werden. Also Behörden werden super laut und sie damit rechnen, ich werde überhaupt keine Konsequenzen erleben. Und in den vielen Behörden fehlen zum Beispiel Beschwerdestellen. Also ich als jemand, der jetzt gerade Hassreden erlebt hat, ist es nicht nur einfach Online-Welt, sondern auch gerade von einer Behörde. Ich weiß nicht, wo ich hingehen soll und mich beschweren. Und manchmal bekommt man das Gefühl, das ist sein und ihr Recht, laut zu werden. Und ich als jemand, der gerade nach Deutschland gekommen ist und der deutschen Sprache nicht mächtig ist, dann muss ich das irgendwie akzeptieren und dann einfach, das Problem ist, glaube ich, dass wir, wenn wir über Hass reden, wir sprechen nicht auf emotionaler Ebene, die ist sehr wichtig ist. Also gerade wenn man versucht, Hassrede, also man erlebt Hassrede, versucht man auch gleichzeitig dann Stärke zu zeigen. Aber wenn man nach Hause geht und versucht einzuschlafen oder zu schlafen, kommen diese Erlebnisse. Die Behörde ist es echt sehr schwierig, gerade in Deutschland. Menschen haben einfach Angst davor, dorthin zu gehen, weil sie dort auch also ich frage mich, das ist einfach eine berechtigte Frage. Ich frage mich, ob auch vielleicht dort Leute leben, also arbeiten, die politisch motiviert sind, also die aus bestimmte politische Ecke kommen und versuchen dann geflüchtete Menschen oder Menschen mit Migrationsgeschichte so auf eine bestimmte Art zu behandeln, die einfach unmenschlich ist und auch nicht würdig ist. Also deswegen eine berechtigte Frage, wer arbeitet dort in diesen Behörden und warum haben viele geflüchtete Menschen und auch Menschen mit Migrationsgeschichte Angst, dorthin zu gehen?
Thank you very much, Monzer, for that summary on the experiences made. Like, mostly you go to departments, like the migration departments, and the authorities working there are really loud towards migrants or refugees when speaking, and this really connotes a lot to hate speech, because sometimes being loud or uttering such statements in a very angry way could resonate to a lots of things. Okay, so Okofa, now I want to look at your individual organizations. Tell us about the objective of your organization. What are you doing? We have like 5 minutes to go, so I hope all of us will have the opportunity to talk about their organizations and wrap it up.
All right, thank you very much for this question. Yeah, I have my business, and that is what we have been talking about, but I am currently the chairperson of the African Anti-Racism Society in Finland, which was founded in 2020 during the Black Lives Movement demonstrations that was globally felt by every country. So our focus is that we want to be here to educate, raise awareness, and advocate against Afrophobia, and racism and institutional discrimination in Finland. And also we want to create a society where everyone is being treated equally. Refugees, migrants, anyone who is in the minority community. So, and ever since our organization was founded, we have been working, and it has been very, very, very useful for many communities. And because we were thinking that it was just for racism, but then we saw that the need is beyond racism, that we have to be involved in social justice, civil rights, and other human rights issues. And we cannot just limit on racism alone, because all these things, like Nelson Mandela says, there's no one single struggle. So these things are all connected. We can't just pick one particular section. So we're actually involved in social justice, human rights, and other civil rights of migrants and refugees communities in Finland. And as a matter of fact, we are the only migrant-led organization that is doing this kind of work. There are many organizations that are doing this kind of work in Finland, but they are organizations that are founded by white Finnish people. And this is also why the community, the migrant and refugee communities, they are coming towards us because they understand that it is important that someone who represents them, looks like them, speak like them, have they share common experiences like them, not that they become a subject to services, because those people who have these organizations who are not from these communities, we become their clients and they get money and make a living providing us services that we can organize and do these things ourselves, even without money. And it has been actually successful.
Thank you. I wish you all the best of successes. Marcell, you're also a member of the European Network Against Racism, and one of its objectives is to combat racism across Europe. Tell us, what's your personal contribution there, and what are you doing? In 1 minute, if possible, then we go to George and we wrap it up.
Okay, so I was acting as a vice president as well. It was a voluntary work, but European Network Against Racism, ENAR, is a Brussels-based advocacy organization network, which aims to use all the anti-racist organizations in the European Union and unite our strengths and power and influence the policymakers, the decision makers on European level. So bringing the anti-racist element to the European Union directives and decisions. So I was supporting general all the work what was going on. And 4 statements, a very quick one about hate speech. So to find the effective policies on illegal content online, adequate sanctions and educations, accountability, review and assessment, and inclusive narratives. That's what is belonging to this approach.
Thank you very much. And to you, finally, George, you belong to so many different organizations. Let's talk about, is it Pride Equality? Pride Equality and maybe European, let's stick to Pride Equality. Tell us the objective of the organization, because like I said, you belong to so many. Tell us which one you think you should describe here.
Yes, I'll discuss about Pride Equality. So what we do at Pride Equality is that we try to create a platform, we advocate, and will provide services to asylum seekers and refugees from Africa with a specific focus for LGBTI community. So what we do, we help people, asylum seekers and refugees in terms of when they move to Barcelona and across Spain to actually help them document their stories, help them with the asylum process, and we also provide unbiased independent report from their countries of origin for people who don't have that. And we also support them with asylum seekers who have been rejected and migrants to give a position statement, from their country of origin, and we also give support letters with the support from UNHCR. So that's what we do, and the range of so many other services.
So many other services. Thank you so very much, George. Finally, to Monzer, in 50 seconds, if the authorities should do much more better than hate speech, what should this be? Was können die Behörden besser sagen oder machen gegen Hassreden?
Ich glaube, das Allerwichtigste ist, dass die Behörden einfach eine Verpflichtung dafür bekommen, Antidiskriminierungsseminare zu besuchen, jährlich einmal im Jahr zu besuchen, um für das Thema sensibilisiert zu werden, aufgeklärt zu werden. Ich glaube, das ist sehr wichtig.
Super. Monzer, not Monzer. Marcell, what do you think authorities could do better instead of uttering hate speech against a minority group? In 30 seconds.
Creating good examples. So don't be afraid of politicians. The authorities and politicians are 2 different things. If political powers playing a nasty game for power and using hate speech and racism, authorities must react and stop them.
Stop them. Ukofa in 30 seconds. Ufoka.
Yes, I think just as Marcell is saying that they are always using this hate speech and these things only for power, during elections, during campaigns, and after elections and campaign, they are silent. So I think that also society could be wise that we know these people and then please don't vote for them.
Thank you. Don't vote for them. George, in 20 seconds.
I think they should create more opportunities and actually be an authentic voice. for migrants and refugee communities.
Super, das war's von, thank you so very much, that was really amazing. Das war's von unserer heutigen Sendung des Nyimas Bantaba. Wir haben über das Thema Hassrede gegen das migrantische Community gesprochen, die Rolle des Autoritäts. Meine Gastinnen waren aus Spanien, Helsinki, Ungarn und Deutschland. Bantaba ist eine traditionelle Treffpunkt, wo Leute zusammensetzen und Themen über wie heute zu sprechen.
Thank you, Philipp.